All right, 38, you have x to the ninth, y to the sixth. What? So x to the ninth, y to the sixth, plus x cubed, y to the fifth, minus x to the fourth, y cubed, and then plus x cubed, y squared. So that's something we did last class, Pierre. So let's see if you remember how to do this. The first thing you always do in factoring, even as we go through the rest of the sections in this chapter, is to look for the GCF first. So what's the greatest common factor?
X cubed y squared.
X cubed y squared. All right, so y'all agree with x cubed y squared is a GCF? So every term has an x in it, right? So my GCF has to have an x, at least an x. Every term has a y in it, so my GCF has to have at least a y.
Yeah.
All right?
I get the x cubed, but y squared?
Y
Well-
squared wouldn't work because the two and there's the second y and the third y both have odd numbers, so squared.
No. Okay, now got to be careful. So
Oh,
So remember GCF, in the word GCF, we're going to talk about that word again, common, right? So let's talk about the x's for right now. How many factors of x do you see here? 9. How many factors of x do you see here? 3. How many here?
4.
How many here?
3.
3. Okay? So I have 9, 3, 4, and 3. So what's common in all of them? 3. So I need x cubed as part of my GCF.
4, 53.
All right, let's talk about the y's. It has nothing to do with 2 going into 3 evenly. That has nothing to do with that. All right? Yeah, look at what factors they have in common. I have how many factors of 6? I'm sorry, how many factors of y here? 6. How many factors of y here? Factors of y here?
3.
Factors of y here? 2. What do they have in common? How many? 2. So there's the GCF. X cubed y squared. All right? So you got to look at what they have in common. So each one has 2 factors of y in common. All right. So that's your greatest common factor. So now once you find your GCF, you're going to rewrite this expression with that GCF in front. And remember, you're going to be using the distributive property. So you're going to say this times what will give me this thing back. All right? So it's not that difficult. X cubed times what is x to the ninth?
X cubed.
Nope. When you multiply like bases, you add exponents. 3 plus
X to the
3.
6.
If you put 3, that's x to the 6. When you multiply like base, you do what to those exponents? Add them. So it cannot be a 3. It has to be a what?
6.
X to the 6. You see where some of you messing up?
Yes.
You better correct that for next Thursday. All right?
You're not going to be happy.
Y squared, oh, you're not going to be happy, that's right.
All mine was like
Y squared times what is y to the 6? Why are you saying 3?
4.
Who said, no. Who said 3? Who said 3?
Have some integrity.
Who said, no one said admit, right? Okay, but it's 4, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you multiply like bases, you add exponents. 2 plus what is 6?
4.
4. Plus x cubed y squared times what's x cubed y to the 5th? What's the only thing I need? Y to the
Just Y
3rd.
to the
That's all you
3rd.
need. Because you don't need any more x's, right?
Right.
Okay? All you need to put there is a y, because that x cubed times x cubed is already listed.
Okay. Minus.
Minus x cubed times what is x to the 4th?
First.
X to the 1st. Y squared times what's y cubed?
1. First.
Y, right? All right, and then finally, plus
Plus.
x cubed, now be careful, x cubed y squared times what is itself?
1.
1.
1
Just plus 1.
plus 1. All right, so there's your answer. That's all you do. Don't leave it blank. So some students have a habit of thinking they don't have to put anything there. You have to put something there. How many terms did you have in the original?
1, 2, 3, 4.
How many terms did you have in parentheses? The same amount.
4.
4. Should have 4 terms in the parentheses. All right. Then we let's look at this one because this is going to be number 41. You have one like that on the worksheet. So it looks like this: 1/3 x to the 4th plus 2/3 x cubed minus 4/3 x to the 5th plus 1/3 x. Now the good thing with that is that the denominators all have this, the fractions, the coefficients all have the same denominator, so it's easy to figure out.
So the GCF for the fraction is going to be 1/3.
So in terms of the coefficients, the GCF is going to be 1/3. Okay, 1/3. Now what about the variable?
Just x,
It's just x, right? So what's a GCF?
1/3 x.
1/3 x. So GCF equals 1/3 x. Now once you find the GCF, you're going to put that in front of a parentheses, correct?
Correct.
So it's going to look like this. Now how many terms did you have originally?
4.
How many terms will you have in parentheses?
4.
4. Okay, 1/3 x times what is 1/3 x to the 4th?
X to the 3rd.
And that's it, correct? Just x to the 3rd. Because I already had that 1/3. And when you multiply like base, you add exponents. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 1/3 x times what is 2/3 x cubed? 1/3 times what's 2/3? 2. X times what's x cubed?
2 x squared.
X squared. All right. So 1/3 x times 2x squared is 2/3 x cubed. All right. And then 1/3 x times what is a negative 4/3 x to the 5th? Negative 4x to the 4th. Yes, that's correct. Y'all agree?
Yeah.
And then finally, 1/3 x times what is 1/3 x?
1.
Plus 1. And there's your answer. That's all you do. All right, and then let's look at 35. So in 35, you have 6x cubed minus 9x squared plus 12x. And remember that all we do right now is finding GCF. So what-
6x.
Not 6.
3.
3x, right?
3x.
3x. GCF is 3x. Because 6 does not go to 9 evenly.
So 3x times x to the 2nd,
Not quite.
or no, 3x, yeah, x squared.
2x squared.
2x squared.
Minus
2.
3x plus 4.
Plus
Yeah.
4.
There we go. No, yeah, 4. Just
All right.
shit.
Now, we started talking about this, so let's look at this. This is going to be, we did number 44 and 46. Let's look at 48. 48. So 48, we have q times b cubed minus 5 plus b cubed minus 5.
What's that first character?
Q
Q.
times b cubed minus 5 plus, in parentheses, b cubed minus 5. Now, this is taking us into grouping. We're about to do grouping. It's going to look like this. So notice if I look at these two terms here, this and this, they have something in common, right?
Yeah, the
What's the
B cubed.
GCF? Hold on. What's the GCF of those two terms? B cubed minus 5. So I would take that, pull out in front. Times, now you see I underlined how many things?
2.
2. So how many things will be in parentheses?
2.
2. B cubed minus 5 times what is this thing I have underlined?
Q.
Yeah, so all you do is if you need to, just cover up that b cubed minus 5. What's left?
Q.
Q. Cover that b cubed minus 5 here. What's left?
1.
1. There's no number there, so this is to be a
Q plus
1. And so that's all you do. So it's b cubed minus 5 in parentheses times q plus 1. Okay?
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
On that one.
45. You have z times y plus 4 minus 3 times y plus 4. Now again, that's taking us
Right.
in a minute or so into grouping.
The GCF is y plus 4.
Y plus 4.
You gotta put it first.
All right, so y plus 4 in parentheses times.
Then you have two things.
So what's going to
The
write?
first one's gonna be z
Z
and minus 3.
Minus 3. All right. Okay. Then they're going to ask you in number 50. Number 50. Here's number 50. You have negative 7y minus 21. And the direction says, now, if they don't tell you what's a GCF, if they tell you to do a certain thing, what would be the GCF? What would be that you would write?
7.
7. Okay? You'd say GCF is 7. But the direction says this. Always follow the direction. Direction says factor out a negative number for the GCF. So we're not going to factor out a 7. They want you to factor out a what? Negative 7. So you're going to say negative 7 times what?
Y minus
Not minus.
Y plus
Y plus
3.
3. Because a negative times a negative is, negative times a positive is a
Negative.
negative. All right, so that's all you do.
You had to really think about that kind of stuff.
54.
Whoever started mixing letters and numbers, I hope they're cursed in hell.
No, that's not a nice thing to say.
Well, this isn't nice math.
Okay, so negative 5m to the 6th plus 10m to the 5th minus 5m cubed. So again, they want you to factor out a negative GCF.
Negative 5.
Okay, negative 5.
And then
Negative 5 times m to the 6th plus.
No. What's
You still gotta come up with GCF.
negative 5m to the 3rd is a GCF.
Negative 5 m to the 3rd. Like cube.
Okay, so then you're going to rewrite this as negative 5m to the 3rd times, all right, now you got to remember your signed numbers. A negative 5m cubed times what is a negative 5m to the 6th?
M to the third.
M to the 3rd.
Yeah, 'cause you-
Y'all agree?
Yeah.
Because a negative times a positive is a negative.
And then plus.
Nope. Minus.
The sign flips.
Because a negative times a negative is a positive. You see, if you're going too quickly, how some of you are going to mess up?
Yeah.
You got to think.
It's probably gonna happen too.
Negative 5m cubed times what is a positive 10m to the 5th?
2m.
Negative
Negative
2m
Negative 2m to the second
squared.
squared. Second.
And a negative 5m cubed times what is a negative 5m cubed?
Just one.
You're not telling me
Plus
anything.
1.
Plus 1, minus 1? Which one?
You're hoping plus 1.
Plus 1. Because a negative times a positive is a negative. So this was plus 5m cubed, then you'd write what here?
Negative.
Negative 1 minus 1. Okay. All right. Okay, so now let's look at 56. So this is going to be the new one. We have x cubed plus 4x squared plus 3x plus 12. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do always when factoring polynomials is look for a GCF. Now, they're always going to have a GCF. There is a GCF. Every set of polynomials has a GCF. What is that GCF here?
1x.
3 does not go into 1.
1.
He said x. Can x be part of the GCF?
Yeah.
No, because x has to be in every term.
Oh, okay. But just-
Now you see, as we go through this, where some of you are messing up, make sure you correct those, and you learn from it.
So.
What is it?
One.
It's just 1. The GCF is 1. Okay, but since the GCF is 1, there's nothing really to do here in terms of the GCF. You can't take it out.
Yeah, you're just gonna go back with the same thing.
Hold on. Okay? All right. Now, how many terms do you see?
4.
4. So whenever you see 4 terms, you want to, and the GCF is 1, you want to try factoring by grouping. So there's going to be factor by grouping. All right. Now, the way it's going to work out for the most part in here, almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them, the way it's going to work out is this. You're going to group the first 2, terms, and you group the last two terms. So we're going to group the first two and the last two. It's not always going to work out that way, but most part it will. So that's what you want to try first. You want to try grouping the first two and the last two. Now, as you go through this, you cover up groups if you need to. So if I cover up this part here and you look at the first group, what is your GCF of the first group? X squared. So I'm going to take out an x squared from the first group. And what's going to be in parentheses?
X plus 4.
All right, before I go on, make sure you understand that's an x plus 4 that goes there. Because x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 4 is a positive 4x squared. Now, I'm going to cover the first group. Now, notice the middle sign is going to matter in a little while. But what is that middle sign right here? Plus. It was a minus. You'd factor out a negative. That's why we just did a factor out a negative. Remember that? All right, but it's a positive, so we're going to take out a positive. What do these two terms have in common? What's the GCF? 3. So I'm going to say plus 3 times, and what goes in here?
X plus 4.
Okay, if we're doing it correctly, those things in parentheses better be the same. And they are. And that's not the answer, because you want to write this polynomial as a product. I haven't written as a product yet. Now we're almost done. What do I factor out now?
X plus 4.
And I say times what?
X squared plus 3.
And that's your answer. All right, so factor by grouping. All right.
Where
So-
did you get the square from?
Where to get the square from? Because that's the GCF of these two terms. X squared. That's an x cubed. That's an x squared. What do they have in common? How many factors of x? 2 of them. So x squared.
The first one had no coefficient.
Okay. So let's look at number 60. Number 60. Okay, number 60, you have 16x cubed minus 28x squared plus 12x minus 21. So 16x cubed minus 28x squared plus 12x minus 21.
Also,
First thing you got to do is look for a GCF. Is GCF other than 1? No, the GCF is what? 1. So then you notice I have 4 terms, so I'm going to try factor by what? Grouping. Always group which terms first?
the last.
First 2 and the last 2. Hopefully it will work. If it doesn't work, we're going to have to rearrange. But the one in your test, now there's a worksheet I'm going to give you where you got to rearrange. But on the test, you won't have to rearrange. You're going to group which ones? First 2 and last 2. So kind of underline if you have to, and then cover the groups up. So if I cover this up, what do these two terms have in common? What's a GCF?
4.
4. What else?
4
X squared. Okay, you got to use a GCF, right? So it's not just 2x squared. You got to use what? 4x squared. You got to use the GCF. Not just any common factor, but the what?
The highest.
The greatest common factor.
So
All right. 4x squared times what gives me these two terms back?
4x
4x. Y'all agree 4x?
Yeah.
Minus what?
minus 7x.
Nope.
No.
7.
7.
I-
All right. 4x squared times 4x is 16x cubed. 4x squared times a negative 7 is a negative 28x squared.
Yeah.
All right. Now, from the second group, what can I factor out?
3.
3.
A positive or a negative?
A
Positive. So plus 3 times 3 times what's 12x?
4x.
4x.
3 times what's negative 21?
7.
If I'm doing this correctly, those two things better be the same.
So
Now, what's your answer?
4x minus 7 times 4x squared plus 3.
Plus 3. There's your answer. All right, so I factored number 60. Just remember, factoring means to rise a product. Okay, 64. All right, 64, you have 6x minus 42 plus xy minus 7y.
Okay.
All right. What's a GCF?
6.
Always look at the GCF first. Now,
6.
don't the ones we're doing now. The GCF happens to be 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there could be a situation where the GCF would not be a 1. You would take that out first. Okay, so there's going to be some like that you're going to have to do. But in this case, the GCF is what? 1. So then there are 4 terms. We're going to factor by grouping. Try the first 2, the last 2. From the first group, what can I factor out? 6
Or 6.
times.
X minus 7.
Okay. From the second group, what can I factor out? A y plus y times what?
X minus 7.
7. And so now these two are the same, so that's a good thing. That's a good sign. So what's the answer?
X minus 7 multiplied by 6 plus y.
What's your answer? Okay, number 70. You have 5xy minus 15x minus 6y plus 18.
No, wait on us to do it.
All right, what's the GCF?
1.
1. So you have 4 terms, so group the first 2, the last 2. First 2 is easy. What's the GCF?
-3.
No.
Okay, -5.
No. It's just 5 what?
5.
5x times what?
Y minus 3.
All right, now remember there's a middle, the middle sign here is negative, so I'm going to factor out a negative.
Negative number.
Negative what though?
Negative
6.
6.
Negative 6 times what's a negative 6y?
Y
Negative 6 times what's a positive 18?
minus 3.
All right, and those two are the same in parentheses, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, what's the answer?
Y minus 3 times 5x minus 6.
All right, number 72. You have 6m squared minus 5mn minus 6m plus 5n. GCF is what? 1. Group the first 2, last 2, see if that works. From the first group, what can I factor out?
The
M.
Just an m,
Yeah.
right? M times what will give me the first group?
6m
6m minus
5n.
5n.
Because you've already got an m over
All right, now, from the second group, what is the GCF?
1.
Not quite 1, but a
Oh, -1.
negative 1. Negative 1 times what is a negative 6m?
6m.
6m, positive 6m.
Minus
Negative 1 times what's a positive 5n?
-5n.
And are those the same?
Yes.
Yep.
So what's the answer?
6m minus 5n multiplied by 1.
M
Or
minus
m
1.
minus 1.
All right, and then let's look at 74. You have 4y to the 4th plus y squared plus 20y cubed plus 5y.
1.
1 what? GCF?
Yeah.
You're mistaken.
Not the one. We got the one in front of the Y.
The GCF is y.
Oh.
Because y is an understood one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was
Y'all agree that GCF is y, right?
the-
Yes.
Because there's y in every term.
Yeah.
So you better have at least one of them. So GCF is y. So you technically you need to factor out the y first. So here's what you would do. Take out a y, and then what's going to be those 4 terms?
4y to the 3rd plus y plus 20y squared plus 5.
Y'all agree?
Yes.
All right, so that's where you're at, right? Okay, now I want you to look at what's inside the parentheses. How many terms are inside the parentheses?
4.
4. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it right here. All right, I'm going to try and factor that by grouping. So I'm going to group the first two and the last two, because the GCF now is what of this group right here? 1. All right, from the first group, what can I factor out?
Just the y.
Okay, y times what?
4y to the second plus 1.
Y'all agree?
Or
Y, hold on. Y times 4y squared is 4y cubed. Y times a positive 1 is a positive y. What can I factor out from the second group? Positive 5 times what?
4y
4y
squared
squared
plus
plus
1.
And then from both of these, I can take out a what?
4y squared plus 1.
Times,
Y
y
plus
plus
5.
5.
and that goes here. So what can be the answer, though? In the blank, what would you put? Don't put this in the blank. You're going to be upset with yourself. Because what else needs to be there?
You need to have
That
a
y. So the answer is y times what?
Y times
Squared
4y
plus 1.
squared plus 1 multiplied by y plus 5.
All right. So that's the answer. So this answer had how many factors multiplied together?
Too many.
Come on.
You have 4 in the parentheses, so you should have 4 in your answer.
No. Let's listen to the question. How many factors, number 64, look at this answer. How many things are being multiplied together? 2. Each one's called a factor. So this parentheses right here, x minus 7, is a factor. 6 plus y is a factor. This product has how many factors? 2. This product here, number 70, has how many factors? 2. Number 74, how many factors?
2.
3.
3.
3. Okay.
One of them is your GCF.
Right.
Y times, notice the times I said, so y is a factor. What's your other factor? 4y squared plus 1. What's your other factor? Y plus 5. So there are 3 factors. So one of your factors, don't forget, is the what?
The GCF.
The GCF.
Oh.
One of your factors is the GCF. All right, and then let's look at one more with this. This is going to be number 90. I'm sorry, number 76. All right, 76, you have 90 plus 15y squared minus 18x minus 3xy squared. Oh, let me go back and let me just mention this. Okay, I'm going to take this off right now. Let's suppose, and it's going to happen. It is going to happen to you. I'm going to write this 74 star. I meant to mention this. I'm going to just rewrite this problem over. Okay, that's what we just did. All right. Now, the GCF is actually what? Y. But let's suppose you forgot to find the GCF, all right, and you went directly to grouping. Okay, no big deal. You're going to say, well, I'm going to group the first 2 and then what? The last 2. All right. So from the first group, though, what is the GCF?
Y.
Y squared. Whoever said y squared, good for you. Whoever said y, it is y squared. I have 4 factors of y here, 2 factors of y here. How many do I need? 2. Times what?
2 y's.
No, come on, guy.
4 y's.
4 y squared
Plus
plus 1. What's my GCF here?
5.
5y. Times what?
4y squared plus 1.
And then what we have in parentheses is the same, so I'm going to factor that out. So what are you going to write?
4y squared plus 1 times 5y.
Y squared plus
Y squared plus 5y, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the directions say factor completely. So although you factored, remember factoring means to rise a product, and I did, but it's got to be completely. Look at this right here. If I cover this up, do these 2 terms have anything in common?
Yeah, y.
A y. So you got to factor out that y. So in other words, you got to rewrite this as y times what? Come on, you got to put the parentheses, people. Come on. Y times what's y squared?
Y.
Y. Plus what? 5. And that's being multiplied by this.
Right. Y squared plus 1, and then 9.
So what I have is 4y squared plus 1 times what?
Y.
Times y times what? Y plus 5. But we tend to put the monomial first.
So
So this is a binomial. This that I'm underlining is a what? A binomial. This is a what? Monomial. Put the monomial as a factor first. So what's going to be your answer?
y 4y squared plus 1 plus y plus
Which is what we had here, right?
I think so.
Okay. So if you forget, so the purpose of this is if you forget to take out the GCF at the beginning, it's okay. Just make sure you take it out in one of the factors where it is at the end. Okay? Because what's going to happen is some of you are not going to be very careful. You're not going to think about it, and you're going to say this is the answer, and you're going to be upset.
Because you're going to dock lots of
Partial
points.
credit.
All right? You get partial credit, but you're not going to get full credit. Remember, you want to get an A in here, right? So the more points you lose, the chances of you getting an A gets pretty slim. All right? So don't forget these things. It's always best to take out the GCF at the beginning rather than waiting. All right. Now, listen. Huh? Oh, it's I forgot to tell you, the test is 3 hours.
Oh, no, it's not.
3 hours. Yep. Who asked that question?
If he's consistent
3
with
hours.
last semester, it's probably about 20 something questions.
Let's look at the next problem.
Questions.
Next problem.
I have to drive from St. Gabriel.
Huh?
I have to come straight from work to here. That's all I'm just
Oh, girl, you'll be here till 11 o'clock. The police won't let us out. You'll be good. You'll be fine. Girl, I get up at 2.
You know,
According to my phone, I'm
school board
86.
Don't get up before 10 a.m.
All right. Now,
Ooh, here we go.
what are you going to do here?
Kind of looks
You
like
gotta get
maybe,
the greatest common factor of both of those, which would be what looks
Oh,
to
you're
be-
right. I forgot about that one. I'll come back. Yeah,
Is it Y?
I'll come back. What's your GCF?
It's 7x
Why?
y.
7x squared y.
Oh,
Now, you gotta see,
that.
now, people, y'all, yeah, except don't curse.
Sorry. I was close. I missed
So
the
that's
square
x
part.
squared, y squared at the end, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can write it as 7x squared y, or you could have written it as negative 7x squared y, because both of those are what?
Negative.
Negative. It does not matter. So if you want to say 7,
Yeah.
I would have taken out the negative because both of them are negative. So 7x squared y times what?
Negative 3xy.
Nope.
Or 3x squared.
Okay,
No.
dude, you're really going to be screwing this up.
3x, just 3x.
Okay? You got to think. Think. Rather than
Think
going
addition.
quickly and
Oh,
do it,
negative 3x.
think. Negative 7 times a negative 3 is a negative 21.
Right.
X squared times x is x cubed. And I already took out the y.
Right.
So that's it. 7x squared y times what's a negative 49x squared y squared? Negative 7
7.
y, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if you had taken the negative 7x squared y, the only thing that would change in here would be what?
It would be
The signs.
Yeah.
yeah. It'd be
So
positive.
3x plus 7y. All right, and then finally, number 76, sorry, 76. Okay, so in 76, and let's go ahead and do the GCF at the beginning, not within it. What's a GCF?
Oh. 3.
That's 90 plus 15y squared minus 18x minus 3
Looks
x
like 3 to
y
me.
squared. What's a GCF?
3.
3. GCF is 3, so take that out first. 3 times what?
30
30
plus
5y squared minus 6x
minus
3, or
x.
No, yeah, just xy squared. Yeah, so that gives you 3xy squared.
All right. Now that's not the answer because you got to now see if I can factor this polynomial that has 4 terms. So I'm going to go off and just kind of do it right here. Okay, so I'm going to do factor by grouping. Group first two, last two. From the first group, what is the GCF of the first group? 5. 5 times what?
6 plus y
Squared. From the other group, what can you take out? Remember the sign.
Minus
A negative.
one.
No.
Negative x.
X.
Oh, okay.
X. They have X in both of them.
The first time I screwed that up.
No, it's not.
So
Negative X times what?
6 plus y squared.
And if you're doing this correctly, both of these better be the same.
Over to the left.
So when I factor this that I'm underlining, what's going to be the answer?
6
Right here.
plus y squared multiplied by 5 minus x.
Okay. Is that what you're going to put in the blank for the original problem?
No.
No. So what's going to be in
No,
the
'cause you gotta
blank?
put the 3 in front of it.
The 3, because you factored out at 3. So 3 times what?
6 plus y squared times 5 plus
5 minus X?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was factored by grouping. All right. So the first thing you know is look for a GCF. And if you have 4 terms, also try factor by what?
Grouping.
Grouping. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at this. So most of what you're going to be factoring will be trinomials. What you'll be factoring will be trinomials. Not 4 terms, but mostly trinomials. So let's look at this idea. So this is section 6.2. Section 6.2. Now this is the easy section. This is the easier section of all the factoring, only because it's going to look like this. X squared plus bx plus c. So the trinomials that we're going to look at, remember a trinomial has how many terms? 3. That's why it's called trinomial, 3 terms. The coefficient of the squared term is going to be a 1 right here. So the coefficient's 1, it's easy to figure out. Now remember, first thing we did when we started this chapter was we looked at multiplying binomials. And we multiply binomials using what method? FOIL. We use FOIL. So as we factor these trinomials, you want to use the reverse FOIL. So you want to use the idea of FOIL when factoring these. Okay? This section is easy. The next section, the coefficient will no longer be a 1. So that's where this trial and error comes into play as well. All right, something doesn't work, try something else. Okay? But there's some pattern to these as we go through it that you need to remember. It will help you if you remember some of these ideas. All right, so let's start with an easy one. All right, well, let's first of all kind of review this. If I have 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. So I have these 2 binomials. So when we factor this, as we factor this, you're going to end up with multiplying 2 binomials, okay? But don't say that's the answer unless you check. And you're going to check this by using the FOIL method. So 2x times x is
2x squared.
2x squared. What's the outer?
8x.
What's the inner?
Negative 3x.
And what's the last?
Negative 12.
Okay, combine like terms, you get 2x squared. What's 8x and negative 3x?
5x.
Minus 12. Okay, so that's how you're going to check your work. You're going to check using a FOIL method. So just remember this. That's one of the reasons why you had a worksheet on this. And that's due when? Thursday? All right, so this is going to be number 2 on page 392. Now listen to this as we do it. All right, this polynomial has a name. What's that name? A trinomial. What's a coefficient of x squared? 1. And it helps if you put this in descending order.
Yes.
So in factoring, put things in descending order. So you go from descending means to descend. So you go from largest exponent to your constant. So what's my largest exponent?
X squared.
2. So I have x squared first. What's my next exponent? 1. So I have 6x listed second, and my constant's always listed last. Okay, so it's in descending order. Now, remember, always look for GCF. What is the GCF here? 1. So there's nothing to pull out, correct? So now the next thing you want to do is factor this as 2 binomials. Factor this 2 binomials. And that's where the FOIL will come into play. All right, so you got to listen to how we're going to discuss this. So first thing you do is look for GCF, just like we've been doing, right? Last section, GCF. GCF is 1, nothing to pull out. If this had 4 terms, I try factor by what? Grouping. But it's not 4 terms, it's what? 3 terms. So since it's 3 terms, you're going to go directly to 2 binomials. You're going to put parentheses, parentheses. All right, now let's talk about the FOIL. Watch how easy this is. Always do the F and the L first. So let's talk about the F. Remember how we did the F? The F came from the first term of each binomial. Remember that? So here's the question. When I multiply the first term of each binomial, that's going to give me x squared, the first term here. So what times what is x squared? X times x. So that's what you put there. Now those are the easy kind because the coefficient of x squared is 1. Now let's go to the last. The last, meaning the last terms of each binomial, better give me my last term. Now there's several possibilities for 8. There's 4 times 2, and then there is 8 times 1. Okay? All right. Yes, it does matter. Okay, so good question. Does it matter? Let's suppose I use the 8 and the 1. Okay? So I'm going to put the 8 here and the 1 there. Remember, at some point, we're going to do this trial and error. At some point. So we're going to put the 8 here, the 1 there. The last sign is positive. Let's see the last sign? That's going to be important to look at as well. The last sign's positive. Last sign is positive. Now I want you to think about this. Let me go and write this here. All right, so let's say we had x minus 3 times x minus 6. Let's suppose I had this. When I fall this out, what's x times x?
X squared.
What's the outer?
X
Minus 6x. What's the inner?
minus 3x.
And a negative 3 times a negative 6 is a
Positive
positive 18. So I get x squared minus 9x plus 18, right? Okay. See how this last sign was positive here? What did you notice about these signs in here? They're the same. They're the same. Either both negative or they could have been what? If they could have been both positive. But in this case, they're both negative, right? But the sign's the same. So if this last sign's positive, that means these signs in here have to be the same. So let me repeat this. If the last sign's positive, see this trinomial? If the last sign's positive, that means that these signs in here have to be the same. And the question is, well, which one is it? Are they both positive or are they both negative? Well, it's always that middle sign. So the only way, I want you to think about this, the only way I can get the middle term to be negative is if both of these were what? If they're the same, they both have to be what then? Negative. So over here, the last sign's the same, so that, do what now?
You were under the last sign.
Okay, so the last sign's the same, right? Okay, that idea is going to be important. The last sign's the same, that means these signs in here have to be the same. Are they both negative or are they both positive? What do you think?
So you use that middle
They have to be both positive because I need a what? A positive 6x. If they're both different, that means the outer is negative, the inner is negative. A negative plus a negative is a negative.
Negative plus a negative is a negative.
Yeah.
Yes. A negative and another negative is still a negative number. A positive plus a positive is still a what? Positive. So they both have to be positives. Okay. So here's where some of you kind of mess up. You fill in the binomials and you think I'm done. No, you're not. You have to check your work. What haven't I done here?
Outer and
I haven't done the outer and the inner. So what's the outer?
Just
X. What's the inner?
And
And when I combine them, what do I get?
9x.
Is that what I wanted?
No.
No. That's not what I wanted.
Oh, so that's where the 8 and 1 didn't work.
So 8 and 1 did not work, so I'm going to try what?
4, 2.
4 and 2. So try x plus 4 times x plus 2 then. Because 4 times 2 is what? 8. All right. Now, the coefficient of x squared is 1, right? Okay. That's the easy kind in the sense that all you got to do is this. Now, most of what you're going to be dealing with, this is not going to be a 1. So I'm just telling you now. So the way we're going to do this in the remainder sections is just trial and error. But if it's a 1, that's easy kind because all you got to do is ask yourself, what two numbers multiplied together is this last term and added together is this middle term?
2 and 4.
8 times 1 is 8, but 8 plus 1 is what? 9. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 plus 2 is what? 6. So 4 and 2 is what you should have used. But that idea only works if this is a what? A 1. Most of what you're going to do is not going to be a 1. So you are going to have to do this trial and error. Is that clear? All right, trial and error, trial and error. If something doesn't work, try something else. What'd you miss?
Where'd you get the x over 9?
Where'd I get the what now?
Is that x over 9x?
What's the outer? What's x times 1?
X.
X.
And the 9x. Okay.
The inner is 8x. 8x plus x is 9x. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was just combining like terms. Okay, so let's check and see if this worked. Now go through the whole fall method. If you put two binomials down, you got to check it.
So your first would be x squared.
So first times first is x squared. The
Last,
outer is, no, do first outer and last. The outer is what?
2x,
2x. The inner is what?
4x,
And the last is now
8.
8. Combine like terms.
X squared plus 6x plus 8.
And is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer you're going to put in the blank will be what, though?
X plus 4 times x plus 2.
X plus 2. That's what you put in the blank. Okay? All right. So the things you got to remember here is that last term. If the last term is positive, that means these signs in here are what?
Positive.
The same.
And then
They're either both negative or they're both what? Positive. That sign depends on the middle sign. So that was plus 6x. They both had to be positive. The signs had to be plus. All right, so let's look at number 4. Number 4. Now remember, this is an easy section only because of the x squared is 1. But most of what you're going to be dealing with on test 2 will not be a coefficient of 1. So start thinking trial and error. Okay. When factoring, you should always look for what first?
GCF.
What is your GCF? 1. All right. So then you look to see how many terms there are. How many terms are there?
3.
3. So say there are 3 terms. You're going to go directly to the 2 binomials. Okay. And then do the FOIL. FYL. So let's do the F first. What times what is my y squared?
Y.
Y times y. Okay. Now the last. There's only one possibility for 11. What two numbers
1 and
multiplied
11.
together is 11?
11 and 1.
11 and 1. The last sign's positive.
So you
What does that
So
mean?
you got to go with the first sign.
Yeah, so I want you to understand this. If the last sign's positive, then one binomial having middle term positive and the other one being negative will not give us what we want for the last term because a positive times a negative is a negative. So the last sign's positive, that means both of these signs have to be the same,
And then you go with the first sign.
whatever the middle sign is. So they're both negative. They have to be both negative.
11 and 1.
Because a negative times a negative is a positive.
And also the 11 plus 1 equals the 12, which is
And so
the middle number.
So 11 and 1 would be what you would use, right?
Mhm.
Now, you're using a fact. that only works in this section. You're saying, well, 11 times 1 is 11, and 11 plus 1 is what?
12.
That only works in this section. It only works because y squared is what? The coefficient is 1. That's the only reason why it works. So if you put 11 and 1 here, then let's do the trial and error. Let's check it.
Okay, 4,
All right, so if you follow this out,
y squared,
y times y is y squared. What's the outer? Negative y.
yeah,
What's the inner?
11y,
Negative 11y. And the last, what's the negative 11 times the negative 1?
Positive 11.
When I add them up, what do I get?
y squared minus,
And is that what I wanted?
5 plus 11.
Yeah.
So in the blank, what are you going to put?
Y minus 11 and y minus
Okay.
1.
Let me just say this. Could someone else had said y minus 1 times y minus 11?
Yes.
Yes, because remember, so when we did this, you could have put 1 here and where and what here? 11 doesn't matter because multiplication is commutative. The order in which you multiply does not matter. Y minus 11 times y minus 1 is the same as y minus 1 times y minus 11. The order does not matter. Okay? All right, so over here, I could have put, instead of putting 4 here, I could have put what here? The 2 and the 4 here. Okay, does not matter. So my answer could have been x plus 2 times what? X plus 4. Does not matter. Okay? All right, number 8. All right, number 8, you have x squared minus x minus 30. Now this time, what do you notice about the last sign?
It's a negative.
It's negative, so that means that the signs in the parentheses have to be different. One's positive, one's negative. So that's where that trial and error is going to help you as well. What's the GCF? 1. It's a trinomial, so I'm going to go directly to the
Binomial.
two binomials. Okay, so FOIL, F-O-I-L. Do the F first. What's going to be the first terms? X and X. Because X times X is X squared. So that takes care of the F. Let's go to the L. The L is going to give us that negative 30. So let's just think of the 30 for right now. Just 30 for right now. What two numbers multiplied together is 30?
5 and 6.
5 and 6, 10 and 3. So look, 5 and 6, 10 and 3, 15 and 2, 30 and 1. Y'all agree?
Mm-hmm.
So there's quite a few of them, right? What you want to do first, it doesn't always work. And this is going to be important when we do that trial and error. Well, what you want to do, what you want to try first are the numbers closer together on the number line. Doesn't always work, but that's what you want to try first. So if you think about the number line, which two numbers are close together on the number line?
5 and 6.
5 and 6. Y'all agree? 10 and 3 is further away, right?
Right.
15 and 2 is further away. 31 is the furthest.
Right.
So 5 and 6. So you want to try 5 and 6 first. Doesn't always work, but that's what you want to try first. Okay? All right. For right now, it does not matter where you put the 5 or the 6. What do you want to put here? 5. What do you want to put here?
6.
6. Okay?
One of them's going to have to be negative, though.
One has to be negative, one has to be positive. So you see that last sign, the last sign's negative, right? That last sign's negative, so that means that the signs are different.
How do you figure out which one it's going to be?
Well, since this x squared has a coefficient of 1, it's easy to do. But most of what you're going to deal with will not be a 1. So here's what you're going to think about. For right now, it doesn't matter. Let's say you make this plus and this minus. Y'all agree?
If you say so.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Just put something down.
Me, I guess it.
But are you going to say that's the answer? No. What did we say you
You
have
gotta
to
check
do?
with the foil.
You got to check.
You got to check with the foil method.
You got to check it. All right, so let's check it.
So x
What's the
squared,
first?
X squared.
What's the outer?
Minus
6x.
What's the inner?
plus 5x.
5x.
And what's the last?
Um,
It's taking you a long time to tell me that
Negative
5 times
Negative
negative
30.
6 is negative 30.
Well, I mean, we're getting there, though.
I need to bring that timetable card for you. 6 times 5. Let's see. There's my 6. There's my 5. 6 times 5 is 30.
Yeah, but sometimes if we say stuff too fast, we get it wrong. Yeah, so you get to where you stop and think for a minute.
Yeah, but no,
You say it
but
right
I
back.
understand that argument. That's what y'all were doing. Y'all were going quicker when you're factoring out.
Right.
But this is multiplying 6 and 5.
But it's still best to take a second and think it.
No, not well. That was not a second. That was like 15 seconds on your
It
part.
was not. Play back the tape.
What was now when you combine like terms? What do you get?
X squared minus X minus 30,
Is that what you wanted?
what you wanted.
Yep. So there's the answer.
We guessed right the first time.
Yeah. Now you're not always gonna guess right the first time. So let's suppose. Now remember, that's the answer though.
Yeah, up there with circled.
X plus 5 times X minus 6.
Yeah.
Or someone could have said X plus 6 times what? But here's the point, though. What if someone else had done this and instead had said,
15 and 2.
let's say 15 and 2, okay? So you would have said X,
X and then X.
X,
and then plus
15,
minus.
2, plus, minus, right?
Right.
Okay. You check it, though. You check this.
X squared.
So you get X squared. What's the outer?
2x minus 2x.
What's the inner?
Plus
Plus
15X
And what's the last?
minus 30
Minus
All right, when I combine like terms, I get X squared
minus 13
plus 13X
plus, yeah, my bad.
minus 30. Is that what you wanted?
Nope.
The wrong part's the middle term, right?
Yeah.
So that means this didn't work. You may say, okay, I'm going to switch the numbers. It's still not going to work.
Nope. Still not gonna work.
Okay, it's still not going to work. You can get a negative 13X in that particular case. All right, so that's the trial and error. What if someone had done the same thing we did here? Let's say this. Instead have said, 6. Instead of saying plus 5, negative 6, they said negative 5, positive 6. Let's check it.
They would have gotten the right answer, but with the wrong
X squared
thing in the middle. Would have been-
was the outer.
Plus 6X
Was the inner.
minus 5X
What's the last?
minus 30.
Combine like terms.
X squared plus
Plus
X.
X.
All right, now here's what I want you to notice.
You had the wrong side.
It's not correct because of the middle sign, right? But what do you notice about the middle sign? The only difference is the sign.
Plus and minus. Yeah.
I want a negative, and this is a what?
Positive.
Whenever that's the case, where the only difference is the sign, just change the signs. So instead of a negative 5 and a positive 6, it would be a what? Positive 5 and a negative 6. Okay?
Can you change the note on the problem on the page behind that one?
Say it again?
Where you had the answer to the problem?
You mean here?
Yes.
What
that
about it?
second part where you say or,
Yeah.
because that's not true.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So she. Yeah. Thanks for catching that.
Good catch.
So remember, multiplication is commutative, right? So what I meant to say was x what? Minus 6 times what?
X plus 5.
X plus 5. Yeah, make sure you fix that. All right.
See, we're not the only ones that screw up.
No, you're right. And it won't be the only time either. All right. Let's look at number 14. All right, 14. Okay, so there are times when you can have two variables. No big deal. You have x squared plus 6xy plus 8y squared. All right, two variables this time. Same thing. The easy thing is, well, first of all, make sure it's in descending order, and put in descending order of the x. So you have x squared listed first. You have x listed second, right? And then this one has no x in it. All right. The GCF of all of them is what?
1.
No.
No.
1. Not x. There's no x in here.
Oh, okay.
GCF is 1. So then we have a trinomial. So now you want to go directly to the what?
Binomial.
To binomials. All right. F-O-I-L. So let's talk about the F. What times what is x squared? X times x. Okay. Now let's do the L. So that takes care of the F. Now the L. I want an 8y squared. So before it was just a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all you had in the last was a number. Now your last term has a variable in it. So when you say
2y and 4y.
two terms whose product is 8y squared, you're going to say either, remember 4 times 2 is 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 8 times 1. What do you want to try first?
2.
4 and 2.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work, but it's always a good idea to use numbers close together in the number line. So you're going to say 4 what though?
Y.
Y and 2
Y.
y. Because if you just say 4 and 2, and which if you're not careful you will,
I'm happy.
4 times 2 is not 8y squared. It's just what?
8.
8. So I need a what?
Y.
4y and a 2y. Okay? That's the only difference. What do you notice about the last sign though?
It's plus.
Positive. So that means the signs in your
It's gonna
binomials have to be
same,
the
It's gonna be the same as the
same.
first time.
and it'd be the same as you say the first sign. It's not. Say the middle term. Because the first sign's a positive.
Well, no, I'll be about the one that you actually see.
You gotta say the middle term. So the sign of the middle term, what's the sign of the middle term? Positive. So you can say plus plus. But check. Don't think it's correct. You gotta check. FOIL.
Okay.
First times first.
2x.
X squared.
Square.
I'm
The outer.
You don't stop and think.
What's the outer? 2xy. What's the inner?
4xy.
Yeah, put it in alphabetical order. So 4xy, right? You could someone have said 4yx?
Yes.
Yes. Do you understand that 2xy and 4yx are the same or like terms?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It just makes it easier when they're.
You put in alphabetical order. Yes, it makes it easier if they look the same. And then what is 4y times 2y?
8y squared.
Combine like terms. What do you get?
X squared plus 6xy plus 8y squared.
Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
So there's your answer. Okay. So x plus 4y times x plus 2y. Or you could have said x plus 2y times what? X plus 4y, right? Does not matter. All right, now remember, try doing a trial and error because that's what you're going to be focusing on after this section. Is that trial and error? All right. What about this one? Let's do one more. Okay, one more. Let's see if you okay, this was 14. All right, let's do 22. Let's do 22. You have a squared minus 9ab plus 18b squared.
It's not one.
What's the GCF?
A.
GCF is 1. Why do you keep saying
Oh,
things like that when the last term doesn't have an A in it?
yeah. I see that now.
Okay? GCF is 1. So it's a trinomial, so you're going to direct it to the two binomials. FYL. What's with the first terms of each binomial is easy. What are those going to be?
A.
A times A. All right, now look at the last. The 8. Now the last sign's positive, so the signs in there have to be the same. They're both going to be what?
Negative.
Negative. Y'all agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. If the last sign was negative, I would have to put one positive, one
Negative.
negative. All right, but they're both negative. What are the possibilities for 18?
9 and 2.
9,
3
2,
and 6,
6, 3,
18 and 1.
18, 1. What do you try
You
first?
said use the ones closest together.
Yeah, try that
3 and-
first.
3 and 6.
3 and 6.
3 and 6. But it's going to be 3 what, though?
B.
B and
6B.
6B. All right, let's check.
Well,
A times A.
A squared.
A squared.
The outer,
Uh,
negative
Negative
6.
6AB.
AB. Inner,
AB.
negative
3
3 AB.
Sorry.
And it's not the same.
And the last,
Negative.
positive.
Positive 8. Yeah, I'm done. I'm just gonna
Bring the timetables in here. 3 times 6 is 18,
Starting to
right?
understand why college students drink
And
so
b
much.
times b is b squared. When I combine like terms, what do I get?
Negative
A squared.
a squared minus 9ab plus 18b squared.
Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
So is that the answer?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the blank, you would say either a minus 3b times a minus 6b, or you could say what?
a minus 6b times a minus 3b.
We've done pretty good at guessing where it was so far.
All right. Well, she had to get up and go get a drink.
Well, I'm saying, I'm starting to understand why college students drink so much.
Yeah.
Well, I understand.
Hell, I haven't got to the point where I stop and get a 6-pack after this class every
All right,
time.
that's enough. All right, let's stop. Okay. All right. So we're going to do some more with this next class period. But this is not that bad. Just keep in mind that the next section, though, the coefficient of a squared will only be 1, but you can use the same idea, that trial and error. Okay? All right, so we're going to do some more with this in the next class period. All right.
Do you have worksheets?
Yeah.
What about my math?
So, this is, okay, I gave you 6.1 last class. No, I didn't. Or did
Yeah,
I?
you did.
Okay, so I gave you 6.1 last class period, and how many did I give you?
4. I got them all right
Wait,
here.
what?
Up to D.
A, B, C, and D? Okay,
6.1D, 6.1C,
I got 4.
A, B, C, and D.
6.1A, 6.1D.
okay, so you have them all?
A, B, C, and D.
Okay, so that was 6.1?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, they're not all due
Until Thursday.
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 Okay, so the ones that are due Thursday with regards to, let me see those. Okay, so, hold on. So 6.1A, you could have done after last class period. Okay, because that's just distributing. All right? In fact, that was from last semester.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with factoring. All you're doing here is multiplying. So that's due Thursday. So make sure you know that 6.1 Part A is due when? Thursday. Make sure you know that 6.1 Part B is also due when? Thursday, because that's just foiling, right?
Okay.
Now, some of you mess up with these. What you want to do first with this one is write it out twice and then foil. Because all these are, you're going to have how many terms in each of those answers?
So all 4 points are due Thursday.
No, hold on. Wait, I didn't say that. When you multiply these out, how many terms are going to be in the answers? No, 3.
Oh,
Unless they're opposites of each other. Like number 4, you're going to have 2. But for the most part, it'll be 3, right?
okay.
3. 6.1C, you can do. We finished that last class period. Remember, that's a GCF. Okay, so that's due Thursday. 6.1D. Now you can do all of this. So that's due Tuesday. 6.1D is due Tuesday. Okay? So how many are due Thursday?
3.
Okay, and then D is due Tuesday. Okay, now,
We start with addition and subtraction.
okay, so this, look at this. This is going to be 6.2 Part A. Okay, 6.2 Part A. Let's look at this. That part you can do. You can do this. So now all I want is the answer. So now you know you have to do some work, right? So on another sheet of paper, you do all the work that we did here. Just like this. Now that's going to be turned in. All I want is the answer. Each of those, all the GCFs are 1. So you can do the 2 binomials. So see what you can do. Now I need for this to be turned in Tuesday, because this is on your test Thursday. So I can give you the key to this. All right? Now, listen carefully. If the polynomial is prime, you write prime. We haven't talked about prime yet, but prime means it cannot be factored. Only one is prime. Only one of them is prime. We're going to do a prime one next class period. But if you're working in this now, one of those you cannot factor. And so in that case, you'd write prime. You can see what it look like and one of the problems we'll do. All right. But see if you can do all of these before next class period. See if you can do it. It's not due until Tuesday. We're going to talk about the prime one Thursday. But how many of these are prime?
You said one.
One,
You won't go
which
to
means
one.
it cannot be factored. Okay, that's what that means.
So if it is,
This-
if it's
this-
that one, you just write
This
five.
part, well, that's what it says, dude. It says if the polynomial is prime, write prime
Where does it say that at?
right here. You don't have it yet.
Oh, okay. That might be why I didn't see it.
You remember we just did that's the one with the two variables, right? I want you to try and see how much of this you can do. Now on your test, there's one or two where I'm going to have two variables though. All right. So I think you can actually start in those two. You can start in those two. Okay. I can't give you C yet because look, C. What can you do with let's say number 4? Look at number 4. What can you do?
Can't hardly see that in the light.
Yes, you can.
3x squared minus 9x plus
3x squared minus
Six.
9x.
What can you
plus
do?
6.
Factor out. Good. Factor out of what? A 3. So we can look at one of those next class period. So I'm not going to give you this one. I'm going to give you A and B. All right? So A and B, I need for you to start on before next class period. It's not due until when? Tuesday. All right. So let me give you A and B.